All right, so welcome to Oliver Art Center's 20 Questions. My name is Mercedes Michalowski. I'm the Executive Director, and we're gonna go ahead and go right into question number one. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Susan Thompson, and I'm an abstract artist and have been for a long, long time. That's just been my love. And I moved to this area about 6 years ago and immediately started to get connected, and Oliver Art Center really helped me with that. So I'm really glad to be doing the interview.
Awesome. Okay, so you alluded to a love for abstract. So what's your favorite medium to work in?
Mostly painting with oils. I really love oils. That would be my favorite, but I really am a multimedia artist. So I do combine a lot of different media. I use collage materials often, acrylics, inks, a lot of different media. And sometimes I'll use oils as the finishing, the last coat of paint will be oil because you can't put them underneath some of those things. So, but I love oil. I love the luminosity and the richness of the colors.
Okay. So when did your interest in art begin?
Really young. My mom was an artist. She wasn't a professional artist, but she made art her entire life. And when I was born, I think as soon as I could hold the crayon, she was giving me crayons and pieces of paper and letting me scribble. And I saw her making art, and I loved my mom so much that I wanted to be like her. And so that's how I got started. And then early on, I also took some classes outside of regular public school. Maybe I was around 11. My mom taught me how to paint with oils around that time. So I started very young.
Okay. So who and or what inspires you?
Well, certainly my mom inspired me from early on. I guess as I grew into my adult life as an artist, there were some art movements that inspired me. I loved abstract expressionism. I love surrealism. I guess there's some artists I particularly like. I like Philip Guston quite a bit. He went from painting abstractly to introducing figurative work in a way that got everybody in an uproar. So I really admire him for having that courage to do that. And right now in my life, I'm really inspired by the global community of artists that I interact with on Instagram. That's really been eye-opening. I have artists that I've been following for a couple of years that are from all over the world. And I tend to pick artists that paint like me. So it's validating and inspiring.
Oh, that's cool. I never really thought about, the world of social media and, as finding your inspiration from things like that. I think
There's wonderful
an
artists.
interesting thing to think about. Yeah.
Wonderful artists on Instagram.
So if your artwork were to be classified as a musical genre, what genre would it be?
Well, I thought about that question, and it's hard to pick one because I'm a real lover of music. I always have music on in the studio, and I'll pick different genres depending on my mood. I guess as far as a genre that might express what my art is like, I'd probably say jazz. And there's a kind of jazz music that's more abstract and improvisational. I really would say that's the genre that fits with my work.
I would agree with that statement. So, I mean, you've kind of already done it, but I, wanted to give you another opportunity. Give us a verbal snapshot of your current work, or what you're working on right now.
Yeah, well, a couple of things are going on at the same time. I'm doing some large oil paintings. I paint in a series, and these are, by large, I mean they're maybe about 4 by 4 feet. And they're very colorful and improvisational and gestural. I like to play with the space, that you can create an illusion of space, but at the same time it's a flat surface. So I like to play with that push and pull of the space. And then at the same time, I've been attending the ceramics studio at Oliver and making a whole bunch of ceramic sculptures, and I'm just having a blast doing that. So those are two things that I've got going.
Fabulous. So this one might be difficult for you, but if you could use the shades and tones of just one color in your artwork for the next few years, what color would that be?
That's a real tough one to be limited like that. Not just to color, but I'm always wanting to create a variety of texture and color and stuff going on the canvas. But I think orange is a good color for if you have to be limited, because if you think of gradating it from very, very light to very dark, you can get a real range of like bright, like sunshiny, light orange, and then the more intense mid-tone of pure orange, or if you darken it, you can get brown. So I think you could do a lot with orange.
Okay.
Or I could if I had to.
Well, I don't think we'll make you do that because you do very well with lots of color. So what is your favorite tool in your art toolkit?
I use a lot of different tools. One tool, like if I thought there was one thing that I didn't want to go without, I think it would be a rag. I use a rag a lot of times to wipe off paint or to blend or kind of titrate the paint on the canvas. And I love being able to grab that kind of oily paint rag and wipe places clean. But I do use a lot of different tools. I know there's the next question is your least favorite.
Yes, it
And
is.
I don't think I have a least favorite.
Okay.
I love to use, of course, brushes, squeegees, charcoal, markers,
Do you use palette knives or
palette
any
knife.
other?
I
You
do
do?
use
Okay.
a palette knife pretty often. I'll use all of those tools in working on one painting. So
Oh, okay.
I can't think of a tool that I don't really like.
Okay. So what is the best piece of advice you've been given in terms of your art or, an artistic career or?
Well, that painter that I really like, Philip Guston, I think has written a lot about painting. And one of the things he says that I have found really helpful is to really paint what's the truth of the painting, to let the painting tell you what its truth is, and to be guided by that, or to be guided by your own sense of what you want to do with your painting, and not so much by external influences or trying to make the painting look a certain way so it'll meet some criteria, like help you get into a gallery. Or I think it's good to just stick with what's the truth of the painting.
Okay. So then does that mean that you do not like participating in themed shows?
No, I will participate in theme shows at times, but not, that's an interesting thing that you follow up with that question, because themes can really bother me. Because I don't feel I need a theme. And being an abstract artist, my painting is such that the viewer can supply their own meaning to it. But I do sometimes participate in themed shows. I had a piece in a women's work show last year in Woodstock, Illinois. That was pretty cool. And then, other art centers sometimes will have some theme that I can relate to.
Okay.
But I'm not going to paint. I'm not going to
your
paint a painting in order to get it to fit the theme.
Right. Okay. So do you prefer to work solo or in collaboration with others? Or
Yeah.
maybe not even in collaboration, but around others, I guess.
I prefer solo painting. I love going and being in my studio. It reminds me of when I was a kid, like a teenager, and I could go into my bedroom and play music on the turntable, and draw and shut out the world and be in this special space. And I feel that way now in my art studio. So I really like that. It's a sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
I have collaborated with artists, and that's fun too.
Okay. So this is kind of one of our random questions. Which famous artist would make a good president of the United States?
Well, I thought about that question too when I saw it on the list and tried to think of someone, and I realized that I don't think an artist should be a president or a political leader. I really don't like politics coming into play with art, although the trend now is almost everywhere art has become very politicized, and art is making a lot of political statements, and that's what's getting into galleries. And I'm not into that, and I don't think an artist should be a political leader. I guess if there was one that was, I'd vote for them probably if they had, ideas that were consistent with what I think would be best for our country. I'm a pretty political person, but I'm not a political artist.
Okay, well, I think that's fair. So what is your favorite meal?
I love really good Chinese food.
Okay.
And I long for it. I don't find that there's a lot of good Chinese food here in the, this region. Back in Chicago, I could go to Chinatown and get really great, authentic, good Chinese food, and I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Bok choy.
Yeah, I think that's one of the favorites in our house, so I do understand that. So what type of art or which artist hangs on the walls in your own home? I see your piece behind you.
Yeah, there's a lot of my art, of course. I often will put up a painting that I've just been painting on and leave it hanging for a few weeks to look at it to see if I want to put it back on the easel. But I really love to collect paintings and artwork from artist friends. It has a personal connection then. And so I do have art by people I know on the walls.
Okay. So what advice would you give your younger self?
Well, my younger self could have used a lot of advice. I doubt she would have listened to it because I was so rebellious. I think I would tell her to really stick with her dream of becoming an artist. At some point in my mid-20s, I got discouraged and felt like I didn't have the social skills to market myself or sell myself, which is what you have to do. And I kind of let that become a stumbling block, my discouragement around that. But I got over my shyness. And I think if I had put myself out there and taken those risks, I would have learned how to do that.
Mhm.
But when I was that age, I thought, if I don't already know how to do it, then I can't.
Seems
So
like a
that's-
pretty typical thought process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did okay without that advice.
Well, I would agree. So if you could time travel backward or forward to make art for a week, which date or time period would you choose to experience?
Well, I thought about that question a bit. What really came to mind right away was there was a lot of art going on during World War I in Europe that was responding to, here I say that art shouldn't be political, but it was responding to the war and the horrors of the war emotionally. And one of those movements was Dada, which was an art of the absurd. It was a way that they expressed feelings about the war by introducing a lot of absurdity and performance art. So I think it would be really cool to go back to, this was happening initially in Zurich, Switzerland. I would like to spend a week in Zurich, Switzerland, going to the Café Voltaire in 1916.
Okay. I have not had that answer, but it's a really good one.
Yeah, it was a wild time. I mean, in that art is still an influence. A lot of people don't know maybe about it specifically, but it still influences a lot of the art we have today.
Mhm. Awesome. So you mentioned this earlier, but is there anything that you have to make art when you're in your studio? I know you mentioned music, but I didn't know if do you have a special paint cup or something that you have to have?
Well, what I really have to have, absolutely one of the most important things, is good lighting. I'm picky about the lighting in my studio. And I'm always trying to find ways to adjust it, buying new bulbs or new spotlights, or trying to get just the right lighting is really important.
Okay. So is there a gallery or museum that you would love to have your work featured in? And if so, which one?
Yeah, I was in Chicago last November. I like to go visit. I have a lot of friends there, and I visited for about a week and went around to a lot of galleries. I love to go to the galleries there. And one of the galleries that I'm really like is the Carl Hammer Gallery in Chicago. And I would just be, I don't think it's possible for me to ever get my work in there because it's pretty, got really high standards, and, they're looking for artists that already are quite accomplished and already have their work in museums and stuff. But I really like that gallery, and Carl Hammer started the gallery by showing work by self-taught folk artists, particularly in the South, that he collected and helped get an audience. And I've spoken to him, and I think he's just a cool guy, and I would love to see, it's a beautiful gallery. It would be really cool if I had a show there. That would be like a dream.
Okay, well,
So
that was the point of the question.
yeah.
Always interested to hear. So this is a question that I love asking different artists. How do you know when a work is finished?
I don't. I really don't know. I struggle with that. You know, I'll sign canvases and show them somewhere in a gallery, and then look at them a couple of months later. I'll look at a painting and say, oh, I gotta rework it. It just, these certain things are not the way I want them to be. So sometimes I'll be working on a painting over the course of off and on over like a year. And often I overwork a painting. You know, I think a lot of artists have that issue. We're very critical of our own work, so it's difficult to stop when it's time.
Okay. So this is the last question. Where can we currently find your work?
Well, I have a ceramic piece at Oliver in the photography, furniture, sculpture, and fiber art show.
Okay.
And I have a piece in Glen Arbor right now at the Paperworks show. You can also find my work on my website, SusanThompsonArt.com, and on Instagram,
Okay.
which I also have a handle of Susan Thompson Artist on Instagram.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, is there anything that I didn't ask or touch on that you wanted to share with whoever views the video and and me? Just wanted to give you an opportunity to bring up anything else that I didn't.
I guess
ask.
I would certainly, anybody who sees this, if you have questions about my work, or you're just curious about it, you don't have to be wanting to buy it necessarily, but if you want to contact me, I'd love to talk about art in general. And I'd love to talk about my painting with anybody who's interested. And if you go to my website, you can see links for my email and phone number. So anybody who'd like to reach out and talk about art, feel free.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for Susan, for agreeing to do this. It was a
Yeah,
lot of fun
thanks.
and I learned a lot. So
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for inviting me. I learned a lot too.
absolutely. All right.
Okay. Bye.